Hey everybody, welcome back to another video. Hope you guys been enjoying the content channel as of late. Excuse me, my hair seems a little just dry and stuff like that. Just haven't had a shower. Um, it is a cloudy day today, so probably not gonna be going out. I might do something. I don't know. I'm still kind of debating it. But I wanted to do this video because I'm a little worried. I'm a little bit worried about the specific film, and I wanted to give out my reasons why. Because the more that I'm hearing about it, the more I'm concerned, and the more I look into it, the more concerned that I'm actually getting. So we all know that the Batman Part Two, which of course is the follow-up to The Batman, which came out in 2022, the one starring Robert Pattinson. That is due to come out pretty hopefully next year. We'll see. There's been multiple delays, mainly due to Matt Reeves writing the script out for the past like 3 or so years, which we'll get into why I believe so. There's been some developments that have been happening behind the scenes that aren't being publicly discussed, at least yet. Um, all speculation, of course, but I have some proof to my claim, or at least some evidence to support my claim, which we'll get into in a little bit. But there's been a lot of there's been some developments. Of course, we've talked about. I don't know if we have talked about it or not, but some casting, that's come about and stuff like that, which we'll get into in a second. But all this stuff has me concerned because it seems like there is a lot of things that financially might be going against it, and also narratively potentially not being as innovative or as distinct as we think it might be. So, so I have my phone, and I just kind of want to just list out some of the reasons why I'm a little concerned. First of which I kind of alluded to, is that we are building up a bigger cast than what we had originally. Originally, we had players like Paul Dano, who was the Riddler, Zoe Kravitz as Catwoman, and of course Colin Farrell as the Penguin, as well as of course Jeffrey Wright as Gordon, and Andy Serkis as Alfred, with Robert Pattinson, of course, being the lead as Bruce Wayne / Batman. So, as far as we know, in terms of who is returning, we have, of course, Robert Pattinson, Jeffrey Wright, Andy Serkis, Colin Farrell, and potentially Barry Keoghan as the Joker. He might be returning as well, supposedly. I don't know. There's not been any hard confirmation. There's been some suggestions to it, so we'll just say at the moment that he is probably returning. And we have two new actors now that are in the mix. We have Scarlett Johansson and we have Sebastian Stan. Now, the reason why this is a concern for me is because, on one front, that is going to make the production a little more pricey because when you get more notable faces involved, they're going to demand certain salaries. So it's on that end alone, it's going to be more expensive. But for another, I think in a creative sense, I think that there is also potential for a little bit back and forth because I don't like it, but it's just the nature of production in Hollywood. Actors, especially if they have certain name value, they will demand certain things. They will, try to make changes or they'll request changes, and to compensate in order basically to keep them on board of the project, to make them happy, they'll make those changes. Case in point, the whole "It Ends with Us" situation, which if you read up on your stuff, Blake Lively demanding what she demands, and ultimately how that whole thing turned out so far. I mean, that whole lawsuit is just ridiculous. But there is a need to cater to certain actors, and I'm worried that because of people like Scarlett Johansson and Sebastian Stan coming on board, that the production may have to bend the knee to some extent to these performers to to work around their own demands and what they may or may not want from this film. So, but that's one part of it, and that's really up to the actors and their attitudes and how they wish to, conduct themselves on set. So that remains to be seen, and we don't know if anything like that will occur yet because production is not in full steam yet. I believe it's supposed to be entering production this summer. So so that's to be seen. But speaking of the production itself, that is where I have another concern because with this bigger cast not being assembled, sorry, just again, cat hair just gets developed here on this chair. Um, with a bigger cast being assembled, and the original film didn't exactly go on location a lot. There was more studio usage. They used that new technology with the big screen and stuff like that in the background. I forget what they call. They used it for the Mandalorian, but they also used it for the Batman. But a lot of in-house working, so they're going to need to be using a lot of the studio lot and a lot of that stuff here and there. But with primarily that cast being assembled, it's safe to say this is going to be costly. We might be sitting around a very similar number that the original film held, which was a roughly $200 million production, which is not even including marketing expenses, which we know they're going to market this film quite a bit. So it's getting pricey. And the original film did well enough. I can look back, I can look and see. I think it did all right. Let's see. Budget was roughly 200 million. Box office 772.3 million. So, just trying to do the math in my head. So it did okay. So this being roughly around the same amount, potentially more because of marketing involved, and like I said, with the cast being assembled, we'll see. We'll see if this goes beyond that or goes above that. In all likelihood, it probably needs to surpass what the original film did in order to really see a true return on investments. But we'll see. And then talking about where we are currently at with the production, it's been a long road. This film was originally announced back in 2022, and we're only now starting to see it enter production. And very recently, a few months back, did the script finally get finished. So that's a little concerning. And I have my speculation on that, which we'll get into in a sec. But a 5 year gap between movies. So that may or may not work against it. We'll see. Batman, as it stands, is obviously one of the most notable IPs. So, of course, it's going to sell, but it's a matter of how much it's going to sell and how much based on production and marketing, all that taken into account, is it really going to see a return on investment? We'll see. The original film barely did enough. So, so we'll see. We'll see. But really, where I have my issues, aside from this long production stand that it's had so far for being 5 years in development, there is a sense of familiarity that seems to be brewing within its narrative because it appears, as far as I can tell, that Matt Reeves is aiming to do his own spin on the story of The Dark Knight. Which to its core, the story of The Dark Knight, is about corruption, that's there and that can become exploited, the rise and fall of individuals, namely as the film is being portrayed through the eyes of Harvey Dent. And if you are believing the rumors that are circling around, which some of which have some merit to it, Sebastian Stan might be playing Harvey Dent. So, and as far as I've read in the past and currently, Matt Reeves has said in the past that the villain of this movie would be someone that we've never have seen before on screen. So obviously we have seen Two-Face. We've seen him twice. We've seen him in Batman Forever, and we saw him in The Dark Knight. So we've seen him plenty of times. We know that Barry Keoghan might be coming back as the Joker. So you could see where certain things are kind of falling in place, where this might replicate a lot of what The Dark Knight did in terms of narrative. And why is that? Because obviously, if Matt Reeves is saying this is going to be a villain that we've never seen before, why is it that only the villains that we know so far are that of people that we've seen? Unless there's a big secret that he's keeping, which hopefully is the case. It seems like that's where we're going. My speculation, and I've said this before, I think, is that I think that Matt Reeves was intending to do Clayface. And because if you look back at some of the rumors and speculations, it seemed as though that was the direction of what they were doing. Now, there's no confirmation on this, but those going by what the internet was kind of saying back then, Clayface was looking to be the villain, but because James Gunn's Clayface film became actively in development, it then caused for changes to occur in the Batman Part 2 script. And that's probably when things were delayed, and then there was a whole new year delay, which probably was for Matt Reeves having to rework the story to compensate now for a different villain and not Clayface. Because of James Gunn's probably demands, or probably his, suggestion to Matt Reeves to, hey, can you maybe change your villains, because if we don't want to confuse people from our project to yours. So that's probably why it's taking so long. That probably was why there's these many years of trying to work on the script, because if they had let him maybe have done what he wanted to do in the first place, we probably would have already had this film out by now. But because of what's been going on with the DC universe, and all the things that were happening there, because keep in mind, the Batman, when it came out in 2022, James Gunn, I think, was just hired on in DC. So all these things that were happening, at DC, they were being built up, and Clayface, as far as I know, that film was not originally a part of their plans. It was a pitch that came to them. I believe it's from Mike Flanagan or somebody else. And James Gunn liked the pitch, and he took that pitch on. And because of taking on that pitch and wanting to develop that film, probably seeing what Matt Reeves was doing over here, he decided to do his thing with what his pitch was over here and tell Matt Reeves, hey, because remember, he is the president of DC Studios, so he can do that. He can go tell another director, hey, I need you to change these things because we're doing things over here. Probably told Matt Reeves, hey, we need you to change things up and we need you to do something different because we're going to move forward with this. And that's probably why there's been about now 3 years of working on it, 2 of which I believe were actually writing the script. And then ultimately with this roadblock with not being able to use Clayface or utilizing whatever they were going to use, then a year-long delay of having to rewrite things out and trying to find ways to make the story work. Hence why we're probably now going to be seeing something very similar to The Dark Knight, where our villains are possibly that of Joker and Harvey Dent. So, or maybe there's something else to it. Maybe Matt Reeves is hiding something. Maybe there's something more to this movie that we don't know of. I don't know. But I'm not worried about that. I'm more worried about just overall quality. I don't care who's in it or not. I'm just, the whole Clayface discussion is just talking about why things have been taking so long, and why it's been so long since that original film and why only now are we starting to see development take place. I think it's just because of things that are going on with the DC Universe with James Gunn that unfortunately have blocked, Matt Reeves' ability to work on his project or to have to rework his project. So, or the last thing that it really could be with this movie, which I really hope is not the case. I know there's been some speculation on that end, but I hope it's not true. These films could be connected to what James Gunn is doing, but they just are being hush hush on all that. I really hope that's not the case. I want these films to be on their own. I don't want the whole James Gunn flavor and flair to dictate what's going on in this world now. I know the ages are probably right for what James Gunn's doing with his Superman, stuff like that. But I don't want that. Just keep them separate. Um, it just gives more distinct stories. That's what DC was always great at, was doing distinct stories, even on screen. With films like Joker, The Batman, just have separate tales. They don't always have to be one and the same. So, but that's why I'm concerned. There's a lot of things that are happening with the film. You got a bigger cast. You have a long production history. 5 years now of trying to get this thing off the ground, and things that may or may not have happened behind the scenes. Of having to rework material because of just what's been going on with James Gunn and his universe. And of course, the pricey, gamble that this project probably is going to end up being. We'll see. Last thing I will say also, and this is something that I actually hope that James Gunn does. If anything, James Gunn doing with this project, this is the one thing I actually hope that he does. Take notes from Joker Folie à Deux. Do not let Matt Reeves dictate this project. I know that's very hypocritical of me, because it's like I just said, oh my God, James Gunn just, probably came in and butchered what he was working on and forced him to rewrite it. In that aspect, I don't agree with, that whole thing. But in terms of finances, I hope that someone is reining in Matt Reeves and not just letting him do whatever the hell he wants, taking as much money as possible and going to certain places that are going to cost the studio a bunch of money. I hope they're going to rein him in and, not fall victim to what happened with Todd Phillips and Joker Folie à Deux, because look at what happened there. That ended up being way more pricey than it had any right to be, and it suffered because of it. And of course, the people just rejected it outright. Audiences rejected it outright. So we'll see. As far as it seems like we're going the route of The Dark Knight 2.0, but it remains to be seen. So, but you guys let me know. Are you guys concerned about the Batman Part 2, or do you guys feel like I'm just kind of overthinking it? I could be overthinking it, but let me know. Do you guys feel concerned like I do, or do you guys feel like this is going to turn out good? I liked the Batman, so I am curious to see what they do with the second one. Hopefully it is, as Matt Reeves is suggesting, more distinct, but it doesn't seem that way. But I could be wrong. But let me know all your thoughts in the comment section below. And that's going to be it for this video, guys. Thank you guys for tuning in. And until then, I will catch you guys in the next video. Bye.